Uh, First of all, I would thank the university and all the people involved in this wonderful event for inviting me over here. And they've given a brief intro about me. What I'll try to do is I'll try to take you through a timeline, as I know most of you are youngsters, all of you are millennials, and there are few things which you might not be aware of. So I'll start from there, and I've got a small presentation which I'll be sharing with you. Okay, now this is the first slide which I'm sharing. Look at the timestamp and the date. It is dated 18th July 2004. And the news is Arjun faces tough task in detoxification. Now, Arjun Singh was the HID minister who was appointed in 2004. This was the time when the regime had changed. Earlier, it was a government led by Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and the nation had voted them out and brought back in the government of Manmohan Singh. And Arjun Singh was the HRD minister responsible for the education department. So if you look at the headline, there is one very interesting word, which is detoxification. The flow of the entire article was that the books which the previous regime had introduced, especially the history books, they were toxic in nature and they had to be detoxified. So from there we are going to start. Then 2006, detoxified NCERT books released. Within these 2 years, what had been done was the new regime had formed a committee of eminent historians and academicians, and they had sat down, prepared new books, and they were introduced in 2006. And by and large, those books are still in the currency. And all of you must have gone through these books, which they are talking about. They have been detoxified. That means the toxicity has been removed out of these books, right? Now, try to think of yourself in the shoes of a member of that committee which was going to prepare books and was trying to remove the toxins from it. Now, history writing all over the world tries to fulfill two major objectives, although there is a plethora of objectives, but two are main objectives. One is to instill within the students who are going through that curriculum a feeling of confidence, a feeling of belongingness, a feeling of some kind of self-confidence for their own nation, for their country, for their traditions. And second is to tell the students about the history of their entire nation as truthfully as possible. So one is instill self-confidence, second is be truthful in that, right? Now, since we are talking about our country, which we call Bharat, that is India, we have an unbroken civilization of at least 5,000 years of documented history. If we can convey this message, that will bring a lot of confidence among the students that, okay, we belong to this hoary civilization, and that is why there will be a feeling of confidence in them. Point number one, right? Now, if you are such a member who is going to write this history book, you will try to find out content during the long history which fulfills this objective. And fortunately, we have a very large corpus of such information. Now, one of those examples is there was this person called Amir Khusrau in 14th century. Some of you might have heard his name. He's called a Sufi, he's called a poet, a lot of things. Actually, he was a bigot, but that is not our point today, so I'm going to skip that part. He has written numerous books, and out of those books, I'm taking one particular quote, which he wrote about, 700 years ago. What does he say? As I was born in Hind, I may be allowed to say a word respecting its languages. There is at this time in every province a language peculiar to itself and not borrowed from any other. Sindhi, Lahori, Kashmiri, the language of Dugar, which is Dogri, Dhur Samudri, Telangi, Gujarati, Malabari, Gauri in Bengal, Awadhi, Hindi in Delhi and its environs. So, if you look at this much quote, he's talking of the languages of Hind, which are present in its different provinces. And if you look at the entire spectrum that he's presenting, it starts from northwest, from Sindh, and goes up into east up to Bengal. Start from north, from Kashmir to Malabar, which is in Kerala. So it completes the entire geography of our nation. Right? Now, then he further writes, these are all languages of Hind, which from ancient times have been applied in every way to the common purposes of life. And the next line he says is also very important, but there is another language more select than the others, which all the Brahmins use. Its name from old is Sanskrit. This is his entire quotation. Now look at the message that it transmits to the students. One, this was entire unified nation. It may not have been a political unity, but there is an underlying cultural unity which was prevalent even 700 years ago. Point number one. Second, he is unambiguously praising all the languages of Hind or Hindustan or Bharat, whatever we may call it. Then he is saying that these have been in use since ancient times. So there is nothing new in them. This diversity has been inherent in our culture. And lastly, he is saying that Sanskrit is a language which is superior to all these languages and is being used by Brahmins. Four very, very, very important messages, right? Now, when Arjun Singh detoxified these books, he took up this quote. How is it that written? Now let us go through that, which you must have read in your history books. This is in class 7th, page number 10. In 1318, the poet Amir Khusrau noted that there was. Now the quote starts. Notice the difference from the original to what is written in NCERT. Look at this. Every region of this land, it has been entirely neutralized. Not talking of Hind, not talking of ancient languages. It is just a region, a land, which has no name. Secondly, he was saying in every province, that word also has been erased. So this quotation, when somebody is going to read in seclusion, there is no unity over here, because what they're saying is a different language. So this, the image that is being transported is that it is a disparate continuity, not even continuity, disparate portions which are just hanging in together in that geography. Then look at this portion. What they've done is they've deliberately edited out this portion where he's saying these are all languages of Hind and put in their own quote, which says Amir Khusrau went on to explain that in contrast to these languages, there was Sanskrit, which did not belong to any region. It was an old language, and common people do not know it, only the Brahmins do. Those four messages, is any of them being transmitted from here? No. And what they're saying is these are detoxified books. In fact, it is being turned on its head and toxicity is being injected into these books, which our students have been reading for last, 17 years. Now I'll give you another example. If you talk about the entire world, demographically or as nations, as politically, Christians or Christianity constitutes about 33% of the entire globe. And number 2 is Islam, which is about 22%. Number 3 is Hinduism or Sanatan Dharma, which is about 16%. Christianity has Bible, Islam has Quran, and Sanatan Dharma has numerous books. It's almost a library. Vedas, Upanishads, Purans, Shaddarshan, you can go on, Upvedas, and there is a very large corpus. But if we stick to only the Vedic corpus, now Vedic corpus is supposed to contain mantras which were written by sages or seers whom we call mantra drishta, and the claim is that these rishis, they sat in meditation, saw something in their meditative state, and then noted those things down, which have been compiled in the Vedic corpus. And Here we have a very large number of Rishikas also. Lopamudra, Gargi, Maitreyi. There is a very large number of women who've been instrumental in writing those sacred mantras which are present in Vedas. Now, Bible does not have a single word which has been written by any woman. Quran does not have a single word which has been written by any woman. And both these texts are deeply misogynistic. They talk of women as inferior beings, them being as seductresses or temptresses, and suggest different kinds of punishments. So if we look at this contrast, if you are writing these books, one primary objective should be to tell that this is the civilization which respects women as Mantradrishta Rishikas, treats them as Ardhangini. So there is a very hoary past tradition which says that women are at par, or in some cases even better than men. Now what is being done in these detoxified history books? Let us look at few of them. Yeah. How many? Great, thank you. I'll just skip this one. This is page number 56 of class 6. Try to remember. What was your age in class 6? 12, 13. When you are most vulnerable. What are they teaching you? Both women and Shudras were not allowed to study the Vedas. Look at the contrast. Then, why was it happening? The blame is of Brahmins. Later they classified some people as untouchable. So these two strands are going to run throughout the NCERT texts, that women and then there are untouchables or Shudras. This is page number 61 of same class 6 which you went through. However, women and dasas and kamakars could not participate. Here the context is that during Vedic periods, it was a very democratic society. They would take decisions collectively. Now just to rub it in, they've added this sentence, however, women and dasas were not allowed to do it. Page number 72. Generally, women were not allowed to study the Vedas. Page number 128. Women, just a minute. Women and Shudras who were not allowed to study the Vedas. Just in class 6, when you were 12 or 13 years of age, it is being hammered into students that you belong to a tradition which was highly misogynistic, in which women were not allowed to study Vedas, Shudras were not allowed to study Vedas. Can you think of the impact that this is going to have on that child, especially on girls? They'll be uprooted. They'll feel hatred for this tradition. And that is exactly the motive with which these books were written. And these books are termed as being detoxified. Okay, let us move further. Page number 119. What are they saying? The Chinese pilgrim Fashian noticed the plight of those who were treated as untouchables by the high and the mighty. They were expected to live on the outskirts of the city. He writes, if such a man enters a town or a marketplace, he strikes a piece of wood in order to keep himself separate. People hearing this sound know what it means and avoid touching him or brushing against him. So what does it sound like? High and mighty people have created an arrangement in which some people are considered untouchables. And this has been written with reference from a Chinese traveler. Now what actually he is writing, let us have a look at that also. This is from his original text. What he is saying, when he entered what we call Madhya Pradesh today, he is writing, all south from this is named the Middle Kingdom. In it, the cold and heat are finely tempered. I'll skip that because of a paucity of time, but just look here. The king's bodyguards and attendants all have salaries. Throughout the whole country, the people do not kill any living creature, nor drink intoxicating liquor, nor eat onions or garlic. The only exception is that of the Chandal. That is, that is the name of those who are held to be wicked men and live apart from others. When they enter the gate of a city or a marketplace, they strike a piece of wood to make themselves known. so that men know and avoid them and do not come into contact with them. He's not using any term high and mighty. Nothing of that sort is being used. What he's portraying is that he is in a country where having intoxicating liquor and eating animal flesh is considered bad. That was only what he mentioned, and that has been turned on its head to show as if there was a lot of exploitation of some people who were known as untouchables. This is to give you the picture of how wickedly these books have been written. Now the next part comes, why would somebody do it? Somebody is playing these games, that is absolutely evident from here. And by the way, since I started raising voice against this nonsense, what has been done is, the previous slides which I showed you about discrimination against women, they have been removed from it. So that is small achievement which we've been able to make within these 10 years. Thank you. But now the important point is, why is this being done? Why are our students being fed with this nonsense which is going to take their self-confidence away from them? There are two elephants in the room. One is Christianity, one is Islam. They are global empires. Both of them have a declared objective. The Christians say we have to convert the entire world into Christianity. The Islamists say that they have to convert the entire world into Darul Islam, or they have to convert everybody into being Muslims. Now, how do you achieve that? Earlier, the era was when you were physically intimidated by the threat of a sword, or by financial inducements like jizya, a tax which was imposed on Hindus, that either you pay this tax or you have to get converted. The times have changed. The battlefield has changed. The weapons have changed. Now the weapons are words. The weapons are books through which unsuspecting kids are being subjected to this propaganda so that they feel revulsion for their own traditions and start revering those traditions which are entirely misogynistic and discriminatory in nature. This has been going on for a pretty long time. It was unchallenged, but now we've started challenging it. How that is being done? I showed to you different slides in which the kids are being hammered that your tradition was highly misogynistic and discriminatory against some classes of the society. When these two traditions are being presented, Christianity and Islam, there is this one quotation from Quran which has been taken for Muslim. Now, bear in mind that the student who is reading this has already been told that you are misogynistic and you've been discriminatory. Now they're telling, thank you. For Muslim men and women, for believing men and women, for devout men and women, for true men and women, for men and women who are patient and constant, for men and women who humble themselves, for men and women who give in charity, for men and women who fast, for men and women who guard their chastity, and for men and women who engage much in Allah's remembrance, for them has Allah prepared forgiveness and great reward. Men and women are equal according to this verse. Whereas this very book is full of misogyny, which says husband can beat his wife, which talks about sex slavery, which talks about so many things which we cannot discuss over here. And this is how it is being presented to 12, 13-year-old students. Same is being done with Christianity also. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Although there is not a shred of evidence that there was any historical Jesus Christ. No historical evidence. Everything starts with a falsehood and ends with a falsehood. Bible is again full of same amount of misogyny which we see in Quran, same amount of discrimination, same amount of exhortation to slavery, which is considered, or which should be considered, the worst of scourges for humanity. So I'll try to sum up my presentation. This was just to tell you that what is going on. We are in the middle of a battlefield, which is a civilizational battlefield. And there are two major players, global players, who are trying to finish off this civilization. If we are not aware, if we're not well armed, if we're not well informed, we might lose this battle. So let us today pledge that we are not going to let this happen, and will make sure that for which our ancestors kept on fighting these two predatory ideologies, we'll keep on doing that and pass it on to our next generations. Thank you.